My name is Margaret. I am an occupational therapist. I have been at Encompass for a very, 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 very long time. I am officially retired. As you can see, I'm retired, but somehow that doesn't work. And Amy, God bless her, keeps asking me to come back and do these talks, which is probably one of the most favorite things that I like to do, which is why I'm not totally retired, because I kind of like to do this. So today we're going to talk about balance and vision. And, balance and vision impacts absolutely everybody, not just folks with Parkinson's disease, but of course, that is one of the primary things that happens when you have Parkinson's disease, that postural instability. And we are going to talk a little bit about that because that severely impacts your ability to mobilize safely and impacts your balance and your reaction time and those kind of things. But we're going to talk generically too. This is appropriate for anyone who is aging. Is anybody not aging in this room? Oh, good. We've got one person. Yay. Are you going to share how that happens? Yes, I know. I try really hard not to as well, but unfortunately, as time passes, you get signs and symptoms of this whole aging process, and it's not fun. It's not for the faint-hearted, I'll tell you. So vision and balance. So obviously, as we get older, things start not to work quite so well. One of which is your eyes, right? But let's define a little bit what vision is. And there is going to be a connection between vision and balance, and you'll see what that connection is. Because the two senses or the two systems work very closely together. So you do need to know what's going on. Now, vision is the act or power of seeing or sensing with the eyes. That's sight. So we all see, hopefully. Some people don't see as well as others, but we all see. Our eyesight is the primary sense that contributes to our ability to safely move around the house. When you're going around the house, you need to be able to see where items are. You need to be able to see where doorways are. You need to be able to see in order to hopefully negotiate safely through the house, right? As we get older, our eyesight naturally deteriorates, unfortunately. It makes it more challenging to do things like read, see in the dark, and distinguish objects. I personally do not like driving in the dark anymore. I don't feel like my vision is, can I? Yes. Do I like it? No, because I think my judgment is not as good as it used to be. And as far as the reading thing is concerned, when my friend was literally having to hold the menu at the other side of the table for me to be able to read it in any form or fashion, I decided it was time to do something about it. And I used to brag. When I was younger, I bragged. I had 20/20 vision. My eyesight was awesome. I could see the smallest things. Yeah, not anymore. No, that doesn't happen anymore. So there are some common things that happen with vision as we get older, right? And those things include difficulty in reading small print. How many people that haven't had surgery can read small print without any visual aid of some sort? I certainly can't. I kid you, I look like I can see perfectly normally, but I don't, because I have those things in my eyes that help me to see. If I did not have that in my eye, I would not even be able to read this at all. So obviously that is a natural thing. Reading small print becomes much more challenging as you get older. The sad part about this is it continues to deteriorate. It doesn't get any better. So once your eyes start to deteriorate, unfortunately, you are, starting out with maybe +1s, and now you're getting to +2s, and now, some of us are getting to +3s, and it's that lovely gradual decline in seeing things. Another thing that happens as we get older, we get these floaters. So that's dark, shadowy things that you see. Usually if you look at a white wall, sometimes you'll see these shadowy shapes, blobs, squiggly lines. It's caused by the gel or the vitreous in your eyes shrinking in size. It's usually a normal part of aging, but if it's associated with flashes of light, it could indicate that you're having a more serious problem. So hopefully you all go to the whatever they're called, eye doctor. You go and see them, right? Um, I I'll be honest with you. About a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I was still working full time at the time, and I noticed when I was looking at the computer, obviously I had to have my contacts in, but I would be looking at the computer and one letter would be blurred out. And I panicked a little bit. I thought, oh my goodness, what is going on? If I move my head, I could see the letter. But when I was looking straight on, it was just one small, tiny blur when I was reading. And so, of course, I panicked, called my eye doctor and said, something's going on. I need you to check this. And so I went to the ophthalmologist and he checked my eyes and he said, yes, I think I know what's going on. But he said, I'm going to send you to a retina specialist. I'm like, who knew there was a retina specialist? I had no idea there was a retina specialist. So I go and see the retina specialist. They do all these tests. It was really fascinating, actually. It's kind of weird. I like to watch procedures and that kind of stuff. Even if they're doing it on me, I like to watch it. So I was tested and he said, yes, this is what's happening. So as you get older, your eye is filled with a jelly-like substance. And it's kind of really close to the outer edge of your eye. And as you get older, it kind of shrinks a little bit. And on the pictures that he showed me, it was so cool. It showed that my jelly in my eye had kind of pulled away from the back of my eye. In this, it was almost central, which is why I was having this issue with not being able to see this one particular letter. And what it showed up as is it came up like a little V at the back of my eye. So if you can imagine it, your eye's round, and then it had a little kind of V shape. And it had released. By the time I went to see the doctor, it had kind of let go of itself, if you know what I mean. And there was a tiny pinprick hole in the back. And that was what was causing my problem of not being able to see that one particular letter. So he said, well, usually they resolve themselves. It's not unusual for this to happen, apparently. I had no idea about it. He said, normally they resolve and it will be good in 6 months' time. And I said, well, what if it's not good in 6 months' time? He said, well, we can do something about it. Mine did fortunately resolve within 6 months, and I no longer have that issue again. But it was kind of interesting. And that was, again, it's part of a natural aging process. So if that happens to you, for sure, go and get it checked out. It's, in my instance, it was not really a huge deal, but it was a little concerning at the time. Cataracts are another issue as we get older, and that's where they form sort of in the lens of the eye and they cause a cloudiness in the center of the eye. So again, it's kind of, I did wonder about that because it was kind of a cloudiness in one little point. So it's the central vision that you kind of start to lose a little bit. The outside is you can see, but the central is milky or cloudy. It is extremely common. It's greater than 50% of folks over the age of 80 have it. Some people you have surgery for it now. It can be resolved, and actually some people have really good vision immediately afterwards, or fairly soon afterwards. Glaucoma is a group of eye diseases, okay? And that's related to the pressure in the inside of your eye. So with glaucoma, it can cause significant vision loss and or blindness, and eventually. That generally starts on the outside. So you kind of lose your peripheral vision a little bit, okay? When you go to the eye doctor, they test you with that. Mine's so sweet. He's called Doctor. He's so cute. And he's very kind of humble and quiet and very gentle. And every time he brings this device out, which I've been going to see him now for 15 years, and every single time he says, it's not going to hurt. It'll be fine, and I'm like, I know, it's fine. He said, you probably won't even be able to. I know, it's okay. And then he always says, can I dilate your eyes? Is that okay? And I'm like, yes. You don't have to ask permission, but he's just so sweet. So that, again, regular eye checks will detect this. So again, it's really important to go and have those eyes checked frequently. As we get older, the fluid in our eyes tends to dry. So you get those dry, gritty eyes. I know by the end of the day, I am literally ready. I always tell my husband, I need to go and take my eyes out. I mean, that's kind of what we say, it's eyes out. And that's where I take my contacts out. So sometimes you can use liquid tears, you can use things to actually lubricate your eyes a little bit, and that's a good idea as well. And then age-related macular degeneration, the risk is higher for age 60 or over, smokers, if you have a family history of it, and if you're Caucasian, believe it or not, you're at higher risk. Weird, right? And that again will cause blurring or loss of sharpness in your vision, okay? There are many medical conditions as well. That's just things that are related to age as far as visual loss. So everybody in this room, I hate to say it, but you're all at potential risk for that. But there are also medical conditions that cause problems with vision. Stroke. They often cause impairments. If you've had a stroke, one of the things that can be affected, depending on where the stroke occurs within your brain, your vision can be severely impacted. So you may end up with loss of peripheral vision. You may end up with loss of vision on one side of your body, which is extremely debilitating. Can you imagine trying to maneuver around when you literally only see that side of the room? The only way you're going to see anything else is if you physically turn your head because you've lost the vision on the inside of your eye. So a lot of people have difficulty with doing small tasks like negotiating a doorway. They only see half the door, so they're going to bump into the door frame. OTs get really excited. I know people who've had a stroke don't get quite so excited, but we get really excited when we have, sort of interesting cases coming up. And one of the biggest things is, testing for visual impairment. They do things like, draw a flower, and you will find that they will literally draw a flower on one side, draw the hands of a clock. So you give them a plain clock, and they will put every single one of the letters or numbers down one side of it. It's very fascinating. So think about that in a functional activity like eating. You don't see the whole plate of food, you eat half your food. So, it can be really, really impactful. Especially if, with a stroke, you can obviously lose sensory input as well. So that makes it even more difficult. You can't see that side of the body. You don't feel that side of the body. So suddenly the world is now all on one side. Very debilitating. Let me just find out where I'm at here. The brain signals are impacted because they're not sending the correct information to the eyes. MS is another thing, and Parkinson's disease and some medications related to disease may also impact vision. So again, be aware of medications that you're taking because some medications can impact your vision as well. So what can we do? Well, it's obviously very important to accommodate to any visual loss that you might have, especially related to safety and mobility within your home and doing your daily activities. You want to be able to see what you're doing if you're chopping vegetables with a very sharp knife, right? So it really is important to kind of look at your environment and accommodate to any visual impairments that you may have. As I say, when we get older, it's harder to see in the dark. Put a task light on, or make sure you have well-lit surfaces. My husband, I work in the kitchen a lot. I'm a cookier. I do a lot of cookies. I have a task light to do my cookies because they're very, very detailed. But oftentimes I'll be in the kitchen and baking away, and my husband will come and flip the light on. And I'll say, oh, that makes it so much easier to see. You'd think by now that I would learn, but no. He always comes through and he's like, I'm just putting the light on for you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Obviously, as we get older, it is especially important, and especially when a medical or neurological event's happened. It's generally more difficult to move around easily and with decreased vision. Always ensure good lighting in your kitchen, bathrooms, hallways, and bedrooms. Don't get up. How many people have that? I mean, right now we were just talking about this. It is so bright outside. You go from a slightly dimmer area into the bright light, and it takes a while to accommodate to that. And the same thing conversely, if you go from a very bright area into a darker area, it takes a while for your eyes to accommodate. So be aware of that. Maybe keep lights on in the house a little bit to stop that severe change of visual change when you're coming in and out of the outside. Different quality of light also might help to make things easier, like a yellow light or a bright white light, depending on what you're doing. Keep the lights on during the day. I hate to do that, but I'm one of those that has all the curtains, all the blinds open. My house has to be light. I don't like it when it's dark. I go into my daughter's house and it's like, oh my gosh, can't see. I mean, I know it's bad for the air conditioning, but you know what? I don't care. I'd rather have it open. Looking for items with bigger buttons or bigger signs on it. So especially on your TV remote. Those sometimes are hard to see, aren't they? The TV remote. Mark the ones that you need to use more frequently, because those are pretty small, those things on the remote. Because it's more challenging to see, you want to make sure that you are looking at your environment and maybe removing things like throw rugs. Be very aware of surface change too, accommodating to a carpet to a wood floor or tile to wood. Watch those thresholds. Sometimes that can be a little challenging, especially with Parkinson's disease. Sometimes those transitional times are very difficult to get through for those with Parkinson's. Contrasting colors might be helpful. So marking the edge of stairs or steps. My parents have stairs in their house, and for some unknown reason, I don't know what it is, but I always miss the last step, even though I actually count the steps. I don't know what it is, but I do. I miss the last step and go down it. So, again, I don't know if it's because there's no difference between the two surfaces, and I just lose it. I'm all right on the actual steps. It's just that last one. So again, if you have a doorstep that's maybe not as well lit as it should be, make sure you have some kind of a contrasting color on the edge of it so that it cues you that there is an edge on the step. Organize your house. Make sure you put things in the same place, unless you've got something like I've got, which I always lose my phone. It doesn't matter where I put it. But my excuse is that when it goes off, it's black and my countertops are black and you cannot see it. I don't care how many times people tell me it's in the kitchen. I cannot see it. So again, contrasting colors might make it easier. If I was to actually close my phone once in a while, my cover is pink and I actually probably would be able to find it. But I have this device instead, and it rings and tells me where it is. Integrating strategies for compensation of visual field cut or neglect is important, obviously, to increase independence. And so that's what, as an OT, we would work on. If you had a stroke or if you have a visual impairment on one side, we teach strategies to be able to accommodate to the visual loss that you actually have. And there's a lot of things that we can do to assist with visual scanning and identification of objects on same colored. Yeah. Those kind of things. We're going to talk a little bit about balance. That's just generally about vision. Anybody got any questions about vision? Anybody have any specific things? I think the most important thing, truthfully, is to make sure you are very familiar with your environment, especially if you have mobility issues. Make sure you have well-lit surfaces, well-lit corridors, those kind of things. And I was mentioning, when you get up in the middle of the night, if you have to go to the bathroom, don't suddenly just put a bright light on, but maybe night lights to light your way would be a good plan, rather than going from one extreme to another. So just be aware of that. Those are things that you need to be aware of. Yeah. There are two kinds. Okay. Wet and yes, there are. Dry has no sugar. Unless taking advanced medications. Yeah. Yeah. Wet Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Did everybody hear that? Two types of macular degeneration, dry and wet. Dry is progressive, not curable, but there are medications that can presumably slow the degeneration. And then the wet macular degeneration, you can actually go, I know this sounds absolutely horrible. I just immediately went, ah. You can get an injection apparently that actually does resolve the issue. So again, frequent visits to your ophthalmologist just to make sure that you are checking for things like that is important, right? All right, balance. So why are we talking about vision and balance? Well, I already said it's much more difficult if you have impaired vision to get around a surface or get around an environment safely, okay? And some of the progressive diseases, some of the neurological diseases definitely impact balance a great deal. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that because balance is the even distribution. So I'm just wandering around here backwards and forwards, haven't fallen over yet. It's always a possibility. I do sometimes overbalance. So if I do, hopefully I won't hit the floor. But balance is the even distribution of weight, enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady, right? The vestibular system, which is the inner ear balance mechanism, works with your visual system, the eyes of the eye muscles and parts of the brain, and they all work together to let us see. I think this is one of the fascinating things. Because they're working together, when you turn your head, objects remain steady, right? As opposed to blurring. If you did not have that mechanism working together, it would look like those awful films that they make these days where everything is going really fast. It's like in fast motion, and I hate those things. I don't like watching movies like that, but that's what your vision would be actually like if you did that. It helps us to maintain awareness of our position. For example, when we're walking, running, riding in a vehicle, that's what that system helps to keep control. The body's balance system works through a constant process of position detection and adjustments using the communication between our eyes, our inner ear, our muscles and joints, and the brain. All of those systems need to work in order for you to have a good balance mechanism yourself. The cerebellum at the back of the brain is actually where it controls balance and coordination and also fine motor. It also functions to maintain posture and equilibrium. Now, posture is so important. It's one of the key things to work on posture and core strengthening for your balance, okay? Really important. Postural instability usually presents with a tendency to be unstable in standing. Someone with postural instability, if you were to go up and push or knock gently, they tend to lose their balance, okay? They may fall backwards if they're jostled. Lack of mobility in the spine also causes loss of spinal rotation, which can as well affect balance. And all of these things are important because we're going to talk about what we can do to help to maintain that and also make it stronger, okay? Generalized weakness. As we get older, I hate to say this, but we just lose strength. Your joints, your muscles get weaker. So lower extremity weakness can cause problems with balance as well. And obviously, if your balance is poor, what can happen? Who's fallen in this room? Yep, it's not unusual for people to fall. And as we get older, unfortunately, our reaction times are not as fast, and therefore we usually go down. Kids can, react very fast and maintain their balance. And even if they do fall, they haven't got far to fall, and they usually just get up and bounce back. We don't. As we get older, we don't bounce quite as well, right? So that postural instability is really important. It shows up in things like getting up and down from a chair. How many people have difficulty in this room getting up from a chair? Right. That's to do with the postural instability and weakness. Parkinson's disease in particular has that tendency with postural instability to have that backwards motion. Most people tend to fall backwards. So when you're getting up from a chair, you really have to focus on leaning forwards. Now, a lot of people have a really difficult time with leaning forwards because they've fallen and they've gone over forwards. So you have that fear factor of leaning forwards. Plus, the body is not sending the same signals that tell you that you are not upright. You tend to have that feeling that you need to lean backwards, because if you're going to go too far forwards, you're going to fall over. So it can be seen in things like getting up and down from bed. It can be seen when you're turning and pivoting. That's one of the hardest things to do, is to walk, 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 and then suddenly turn around and walk back. I'm doing pretty well right now, but that sudden turning motion. And also when you're standing upright. Now, postural instability, when you're standing upright, I'm just going to show you a little exercise. I mean, if you're brave enough to do it, but please don't if you're not, very well balanced. But this is an example of how the eyes and your balance work in effect, okay? So I can stand with my eyes open without any issue whatsoever. I didn't stand with my feet close together. I'm a little less stable if I put my feet close together. So I tend to stand with my feet a little further apart. But I can raise my arms, I can move, I can turn, all of that kind of thing. Now watch what happens when I actually close my eyes, okay? Can you see what's happening? I can feel it. I can feel it. Yes, I sway. So that is not an unusual thing to happen. So obviously, when I close my eyes, my vision is not connecting as well with my balance system. And the first thing that starts to happen is I have that sway. All right, tell me an activity that we do hopefully on a pretty regular basis where we are standing and we close our eyes, and I didn't even raise my arms over my head, but I closed my eyes and I was standing. What activity? Shower. Say again? Yeah, yeah. But no, showering is an activity that we all do. Now, you guys probably don't have to worry too much about Ashley. You all do. You all have hair. But we ladies have hair, right? And what do we do when we wash our hair? Hands go overhead, soap's coming down our face. High risk behavior as we get older, I'm thinking, right? So here's what I do. I haven't resorted to a shower seat yet, but I lean up against a wall, maybe, especially if I'm doing things like washing my feet or doing this kind of thing. Because, oh, okay, it's got some postural instability apparently. Did I break it? Oh my Lord. Oh, that made you move, didn't it? I didn't realize. Okay, I am not leaning up against that anymore. That's for sure. What is it? Oh, okay. Note to self, do not lean up against the stage. Make sure you lean up against a wall. But it is really important when you're looking at your daily activities to think about things like that. Are you focusing on keeping your feet further apart so that you are more stable, right? Because when you have a narrow base of support, you are much less stable. Are you sitting down to take a shower? Nothing that says you can't do that, and that would be the safest option for sure. Are you standing on one leg to wash your feet? Which is a reckless thing to do when I've got these shoes on, I have to say. But yeah, sorry. Exactly. Grab bars and things like that to put in. So it's really important to look at how your environment is. What can you do to make it safer? We already talked about getting up and down from a chair is difficult. Who has a problem? We got to say it. Getting up and down off the toilet. We always talk toilets. We can't go through a talk without talking about toilets. You do need a bar. Oh, you need it. Now I'm pretty I'm pretty vertically challenged. I'm not a terribly tall person, but and I'm very fortunate because in my house I have the high boy toilets. Okay, guys, how high is not the high boy toilet, a standard toilet? How tall is a standard toilet? Say again. 14 inches. There. That's awful. Have you ever tried getting up and down off a toilet that low? When I was 20, I never even thought about it. Now it's like, what the heck? Where is the toilet? Seriously. So a high boy toilet is how tall? Yes, good job. So it's around 17 inches. 3 inches more? And they say it's a high boy? Well, for me, it's not so bad because I'm short. But for somebody who's 6'2", how hard is it to get off a 17-inch toilet without without some kind of device to make it higher? Or grab bars to assist you to push yourself up, or a raise to make that toilet even higher. Because when you're struggling to get up and down off a low surface, what happens when you can't do it? You fall back, you fall forward, you panic, so that it's really, the more you can't do something, the more anxious you're going to be able to be about it, and the worse it is to do it. I will tell you. A little story. I had my daughter's boyfriend's mother. I don't know what else to call her. But anyway, she's got severe knee injury problems and all that kind of thing. And before I could even say anything, she was coming for Thanksgiving dinner. She sat on my lowest, squishiest sofa that she could possibly have found. And I'm like, don't! And she was down. And that was it. So, oh, I'm fine, no problem. It took two of us. I know what I'm doing to get her off the chair, but it took two of us to get her out of that chair. So again, if you're visiting people or if you're looking around your house, think about what you're sitting down on so you're not struggling. A chair with arms is going to be a lot easier for you than it is to sit on something low. And if you're struggling, your balance is going to go. There's no doubts about it. When you're struggling to do something, that's when you're more likely to panic, overbalance, struggle to do it, run out of energy, weaken your legs, all of those things. So be careful about that. Again, think about that wide stance. Especially when you're standing and reaching for something. We have a lot of people who reach outside their base of support. You're going to lose your balance. Take a step. Always stand with something to hold on to if you're reaching things. Oh, even leave things that you use on a frequent basis out of the cabinet so you don't have to reach overhead for things. Again, always make sure you have that wide base of or solid base of support. I'm going to look at everyone's shoes now. Don't look at mine because I'm bad. Today I wore bad shoes, but you've got good shoes. Shoes make a difference. You wear decent shoes, good, flat, supportive shoes. You're in better shape than if you wear something like I'm wearing, or Amy's are better than mine today, actually. Or flip-flops. Don't wear flip-flops. Please do not wear flip-flops, especially if you have any mobility issues of any description at all. Do not wear flip-flops. And especially if you have sensory loss as well. If you've got peripheral vision, not peripheral vision, peripheral neuropathy, that kind of thing where your sensation is impaired as well. So what can we do to help to maintain our balance or improve our balance? There are some really good programs. Every time I come here, I see all this wonderful equipment, and I know you guys have good exercise programs that you do. But there are certain things that you need to be working on. So balance is definitely one of them. So balance exercises. What are some good balance exercises? Marching on the spot, just marching. Standing, if you can't do it without holding on, standing and holding for a second. You see how far I'm wobbling like crazy? Oh my gosh, that's not good. That's called stork stand. And we test people with that. If you can do a 30-second stand on one leg without holding on. But again, that's something you can practice. You can hold on to a surface and stand on one leg. Ooh, oh, I'm going to pull that over too. Oh my Lord. So note to self, next time I come, make sure everything is securely fastened to the floor. What? Sorry? Because it works on your balance.
And why you even consider lifting a leg and standing like that. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, but it's working on your strength in one leg. So actually, it is actually a really good exercise to do. Now, would I suggest you do it without either two-handed support to start with or just one? I would definitely recommend that. But it's actually a really good. Yes. And so here's the deal as well. Think about walking. You don't realize it, but at certain points, when you take a step, you're actually on one foot. You don't realize it because when you walk, most of the time you don't even think about it. But part of that gait is actually standing on one foot. Standing, getting up and down on a curb is another very good example of it. So it is important, and it will just work on your overall balance as well. Reaching with or without upper extremity support. So a lot of times we'll work with patients, I'm not going anywhere near that, but we'll work with patients standing and we'll have them, oh Lord, that's not real too. Is there anything solid in this building? Seriously? Oh my goodness, I think this is. That's so reaching, and down and across and that kind of thing. Those are the kinds of activities that we do with our patients to help to work on. I'm serious. I'm going to do a recce. When I ever do this talk again, I'm going to do a recce and make sure there are solid surfaces all over the place. Oh my Lord. Balloon tap, that's a great activity to do. Where you're reacting, that's working on your reaction time also. Range of motion and strengthening. Any exercises that you do, you can do, sitting down, you can do them standing up. Any range of motion or exercises are going to keep you in much better shape. Working on your core is really, really important. So things like yoga and Tai Chi and, even just walking or working in the pool, swimming, not necessarily even just swimming, but standing in the pool. That's a great place to be if you can get safely in and out of it, to work on exercises to help with core strengthening. When I go for my walk in the morning, the first thing I do when I get back is go in the pool. And I work on some, balance stuff while I'm in the pool. I also supposedly cool down, but right now it's 94 degrees, so it's really like getting into a hot bath. But anyway. Rotational exercises. Again, do you remember when I said before, if you lose that rotation, it tends to increase postural instability. So again, working on just rotating in the chair, any of those kind of exercises are good. If you've got bad backs, make sure you are well supported. When you are doing exercises, and this is something people don't always think about, you can sit in a chair and be well supported on the back of the chair. You want to make sure you are that. If you really want to work your core, you sit a little further forward on the chair and make sure you maintain that core strength when you're doing your exercises. But it's really important to protect your back. When you're standing up and down, again, think of that core when you're standing up. Make sure you engage that core before you stand up. It's going to help a lot with your posture. We talked about unilateral stance, rotational exercises. I talked briefly about, other kind of options. Boxing, they do a brilliant program for boxing, especially with folks with Parkinson's disease. Why is that so good? What's so good about boxing? It is. It's movement. It's that fast reaction time. It's a lot of balance challenges when you're doing your boxing. And they have the program in it. And from what I understand, there are many different kinds of levels that you can actually do to accommodate if you're not as able to do the really high level stuff. They can actually modify it for you as well. So that's really good. Yoga, great. Recommend yoga to everybody, especially if goats are involved. I've done goat yoga. Oh, it's the most fun ever. Seriously. If you don't mind a little goat stuff on your mat. And if you don't really do much yoga because you're more involved with what the goats are doing, to be honest with you. We did this in down in Fort Myers, and my husband doesn't do yoga. Well, I don't do yoga either, but we went and did goat yoga, and they bring all these little goats out to start with, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then they bring the bigger ones out, and then the bigger ones do things like sit on your back or stand on your back. And my husband was lying there. We were supposed to be doing some kind of yoga pose, and he was, lying down on his tummy before he did the pose, and this massive goat came and just laid across him. And he just looked at me and said, "What am I supposed to do?" And I'm like, wait until it gets off, I guess. I don't know. But I defy anybody. I mean, yoga is really good for your well-being anyway. I mean, it makes you feel relaxed. It's great for your breathing techniques. It's great for relaxation, and it's great for stretching, which is really, 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 really important. But you add goats to it, and I defy you to be happy by the time you don't leave, because you cannot not be happy. It's the most amazing thing ever. Yeah, you have to deal with, but they clean it up, so it's all right. And it's very tiny, so it's okay. Swimming, great for cardiovascular, but it's also a really good activity to work on balance. You're supported by the water. You can do exercises. You don't even have to swim. Even walking backwards and forwards in the water is great cardio and really good for your balance as well. Generally walking, it doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be great distances. I walk every morning, pretty much every morning. We now actually have a group of friends that I'm trying to get Amy to join as well. We call ourselves the Distance Divas because we have friends all over the country, and everyone gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning and walks, and then sends sweaty pictures to each other to say, "Oh yeah, we did a walk this morning," Strengthening and aerobic classes, also a great thing to do. Along with regular exercises, and this is really important, just maintaining your activity level. When you are at home, moving around your house is activity. Any activity is good. And when you're working on your getting dressed in the morning, or taking your shower, or, making something in the kitchen, all of those things keeps you functionally active. And that's what you need to be doing. So any activity that you can do at home is also good. If your balance is an issue, adaptive equipment may be the way you need to go. You may not be able to walk unsupported, but you may be able to walk if you're using a walker. My mom always says, "Oh, I can't walk." No, Mom, you can walk. You just can't walk without your walker. But you can still walk to the end of the driveway and back without any problem whatsoever. She's 99, by the way, 99 and a half now. But she tells me she can't walk, but she can walk. She just needs an assistive device in order to be able to do it, So think about that. Things like reaches for picking items up off the floor. Picking an item up in the middle of the room is extremely challenging. If you're reaching down to pick it up, there's a very good chance that you're going to go over. Plus, if I'm not, I hate to admit this, but if I'm not next to something, if I go down on the floor, I have to hold on to something to get back up again. It just is killing me to actually admit that, but it's true. And if I was stuck in the middle of the floor, yeah. Good point. You can do chair yoga. So chair yoga would be the way to go. If you have concerns about getting up from the floor, there are special techniques that you can actually use to get up from the floor. I can physically do it, but I have to go onto my hands and knees in order to be able to do it. My friend was laughing at me yesterday because she has this adorable dog, and I love to be down on the floor and petting it and all that kind of thing. And we were just talking, and I was holding on to the end of the sofa, and she started laughing at me. I'm like, "Don't laugh." I said, "I need this. I need to be able to hold on to something to get up off the floor." She said, "It is the sign of the times." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, awesome. Thank you. Make me feel older, why don't you?" Use a reacher to pick things up off the floor. Use long-handled equipment if it's difficult to put your shoes on and you're fearful of leaning forward because you think you're going to overbalance. Use a long-handled shoe horn. Use slip-on shoes. Use a sock aid. All of those things can actually help you to remain independent, even if your mobility or your balance is not as good as it used to be, right? So the key takeaways from this is stay active, work on your balance. You can improve balance. We do balance programs at our place that actually work specifically on balance. Think about that core. Make sure you're doing strengthening exercises. That's really important. And the one thing I did mention it, but I have not overstated it, and it's really, really, really important, is stretching. You know, make sure you are stretching. It is so important to keep your muscles lengthened. You know, you see people who are walking with their knees bent like this, you know, you need to work on stretching. That's, you know, that kind of posture, forward lean posture is key for falling over. I mean, it really is. You really need to work on that. You know, I think you're a ballet dancer, right? Weren't you a ballet dancer? Many moons ago, I was too. And one of the key things about ballet is that core posture and the posture, right, is being able to, and when I walk, even though it's been 40 years probably since I danced, maybe 45 years, I still think about that when I walk. And I actually had two friends walking with me, and I said, you need to stand up, because my friend walks like this. She walks very fast, but her posture is horrible. I told her you need one of those postural things to work on. So think about that. Really important. So, you know, think about standing up nice and tall. I'm going to pick my little thing out here. Stand up against something so you're completely up and straight, right? So you can work on that posture. Questions? Wow. Oh, good.
I had a team instructor a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise I never done.
Okay.
I want you to walk down this hall.
Uh-huh. Yes. It does. And that's actually I have to add that to my notes, because it is to actually, as you're walking, to actually turn your head, go back to central, turn again, and then back up and down. Yes, that does stimulate the vestibular system. So yeah, we do a lot of that. And even have things like targets for them to be able to see as they walk. So thank you for that. That's a really good point. Any other questions, comments? Okay.
The importance of lifting weights,
Yes.
not maintaining forever a low weight. For example, again, if some of you are using 2 pounds as a dancer, we even started when we were little with 1 pound. Okay. And then we went halfway through the class, we had to go to 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 pounds were only this high. Anyway, that developed
It does.
a not only core strength, but arm strength, leg strength, so that as you age up and this affliction happens, you're prepared.
And I agree entirely with what you're saying. However, I do also want to caution you. If you have any joint or limitations in range of motion without weights, you do not need to be using heavy weights, because what's going to happen if you are trying to counteract, so you can only raise your arm up this far without a weight, what's going to happen if you put a weight in your hand? You're going to do this notion. And so consequently, the technique is even more important. And I agree, you know, you can build up strength in anything. You know, you walk for 20 minutes to start with, you get to 30 minutes, you get to 40 minutes just by building up that strength. And the same with exercise. It is the same with exercise. But the key thing is to do it correctly. So make sure you are protecting your joints. That's why the core is so important. You know, that's why I said when I'm walking, you know, I am very conscious of the way that I walk, because I know I can walk incorrectly and be doing damage. It's the same with exercise. And, you know, I see a lot of people, you know, especially our macho guys, like to use their 5-pound weights, and they're using them and everything's going out of whack, and it's not good. So as long as you can tolerate the weight, increase it. But make sure you are using good form in order to be able to do it, because that's the really most important thing. You know, you can get a decent workout even without weights if you're doing it properly, if you are doing it properly. So yeah, I agree with you. Any other questions?
Do you have, part of your physical therapy?
In the facility, yes, we do resistance exercises. You can use TheraBand is the resistive bands. That's great if you're at home as well, because it doesn't take up much room. And they have different resistances. So yes, resistance bands are awesome. You can do them for legs, backs, arms, everything. So yes, resistance bands are really good. We use free weights as well. We use machines that have resistance on them also. I mean, you guys have got, you know, bikes. I don't know if you have any resistance machines or anything like that, but I see all the free weights and things that you can use. So yes, we do that. But that's a great thing to have at home, because you can just pop it in a little corner and nobody ever sees it. You don't fall over your weights, right? Anything else?
Getting out of a chair,
Say again, what?
getting out of a chair,
Yes.
nose over toes.
There you go. Okay. This young man was recently at our facility and yeah,
Do I move the therapist?
there you go. Now, the nose over toes thing is okay. And a lot of the therapists actually will say nose over toes. I tend to do nose and up, forward and up. Okay. But yes, you are not going to be able to stand up if you don't lean forward and it's impossible. You can't do it. There's not a chance you're going to be able to get out of the chair. But if you lean forward and get your weight, you're using your strong muscles in your legs to stand up. Yeah, see? That's a great exercise too. What that young lady's doing over there is a great exercise. She's doing it without holding on. Now she's just showing off, is what's happening, is now. But that is true, nose over toes. You want to make sure you shift that weight forward, but you don't want to bend. So you're not going to do a nose over toes like that. You're going to do a nose over toes, forward and up, okay? You've got to get that weight off your bottom. Hate to say it, but our bottoms are heavy. They tend to be like lead when you try and get off somewhere. So yeah, you've got to shift your weight. And that's when your strong muscles in your legs are going to engage and your core. So yes, you do. Remember that wide base of support. And they do need to be kind of behind you a little bit, you know, slightly behind you if you can. A lot of people who have knee issues can't get them as far behind. So in that instance, you shift a little bit further forward on your chair. So you're not going to be able to get up like that. It's a great exercise for triceps, but it's not going to get you up off the chair. So if you move forwards, it makes it easier to get off the chair as well. Oh, all these exercises. We'll have to do an exercise class at some point. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, my Lord. Seriously. Thank you, guys.